Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People, where you'll hear stories about people who think they can always get their own way and that the world revolves around them. Like this entitled lady right here, who brings her own bell to a restaurant to get servers' attention. How annoying would that be? Or this person right here, who gives a 1-star review at PetSmart that says, "My husband and I have shopped here consistently for years, but we will use a different location from now on. They will literally lock the doors right in your face if you show up 2 minutes after closing." Well, gee, Sarah, let's keep employees from going home to their families just a little longer so you can browse for 20 minutes and end up buying nothing because they didn't have the doggy chew toy that you wanted. My friends, in this episode, you're gonna hear 3 entitled stories. The first story was emailed to me from Kathy W., where a Karen gets upset because OP renovates his backyard. The second story is a wild story with a wholesome twist, where a Karen is in line at a supermarket and gets upset at the way that someone dresses. And we'll finish up with a story where a woman steals out of OP's backyard. My friends, strap yourselves in for these stories, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for future tales of entitled people, if you happen to like this stuff. Let's dive in. My fiance and I recently moved into a new house. It was the first house we bought, and it was the perfect starter home. The house was small, but it came with a large backyard. And as someone who loves sitting outside and hosting gatherings where I would barbecue, I loved my backyard. A note about this house is that in the middle of the giant backyard, there was basically a permanent playground that the previous owners had set up. It kind of looked like a playground you'd find at a public park. It was a giant sandbox that had swings, a swirly slide, and monkey bars. It was a pretty impressive looking playground. But the thing is, the wife and I were making plans on removing the playground and getting rid of it, since we weren't planning to have kids. We planned on redesigning the whole backyard, planting trees, adding new landscaping, etc. A few days after moving in, we hired some people so they could come take apart the monkey bars and pull out the swings, as they were embedded into the sandbox. Anyway, before the story gets too long, this is where the entitled Karen comes in. So, not long after we took it down, maybe a few days, we get a knock on the door. It was Karen, our next door neighbor. Karen doesn't introduce herself and demands, "Hey, I noticed you took down the playset. What was the reasoning? Why'd you take it down?" Confused, I asked, who are you? "I live next door. I'd like to know why you took down the playground you had back there. It was mine." I was really confused at this point, because how could it be hers when it was in my backyard? I told her that we took it down because my wife and I were planning on redoing the whole backyard and would love to put a gazebo and build a deck right where the playground was sitting. And that did not sit well with her. She asked, "Where'd you put it? That used to be my playset. I gifted it to the next door neighbors so our kids can play on it together. My kids go and play on it every Friday after school until I get home from work." I told her that the previous owner may have allowed that to happen, and again, I told her that my wife and I wanted to redo the backyard, since it's our property now. This Karen actually got huffy and upset and told us that the neighbor promised her when she moved away that the playground would stay up for the kids to play on. She then got upset at me because for years her kids would come over to play on the playground, and how dare I move into the neighborhood and start changing things on her, and demanded that I put it back up. Once I told her that we basically scrapped it, she then also demanded to know where we put the old playground stuff and told, not asked, me to go get it. She then threatened me and told me that her friend is a police officer and she's gonna charge me with theft because I essentially threw away her property, even though it was a gift to the old neighbors. So yeah, I live beside a Karen, and no, the cops never came knocking on my door. It actually amazes me that some people think they can tell you what to do on your property. Like, I understand it was a gift to her neighbors, and the neighbors essentially sold it with their house, so I'm pretty sure it was fair game, and that nothing could have been done for Karen in the situation. Did Karen have the right to get upset at OP for getting rid of her gift? Oh, and before we go into the next story, I found this video on the internet where an entitled mom lets her kids play in a random person's backyard. I'm totally shaking my head at how entitled this mother and her kids are. This happened this morning between 9 and 10 a.m. I went to the supermarket to grab a few things for lunch and dinner. It's early and slow, so the store only had the self-checkout and one register open. As I got to the register, I see a young woman in her early 20s with a sleeping baby in her arms and a basket with formula, diapers, over-the-counter baby items for diaper rash, and several prescriptions that were paid for at the pharmacy. The girl gets to the register before me, and then I saw the rampaging Karen come out of the aisle, right in front of me. I knew there'd be trouble from the oversized sunglasses, the Karen haircut, the yoga pants that were 3 sizes smaller than they should have been, and the very low-cut top that showed off a lot of skin that no one I knew wanted to see. She has maybe a dozen items in her cart. With the global situation, the clerk and the 20-something girl and I are wearing the required mask. But of course, Karen can't be bothered, and she's also ignoring the 6 feet markings on the floor for social distancing. The mother is holding the sleeping baby and trying to fish her wallet out of her small purse, while also holding the diaper bag and the usual baby accessories. The cashier hadn't even finished ringing the girl up when the wild Karen starts complaining in a loud voice about unprepared shoppers not even having their money ready. Karen's cart is almost touching the 20-something's leg. Naturally, Karen's complaint at full volume had the unfortunate effect of waking the sleeping infant, who registered his displeasure by letting everyone within hearing distance know. The mother was attempting to calm the infant and get her wallet out of her purse. The fact that Karen had to wait and now listen to the infant that she woke up caused another nasty tirade. I'm in line behind Karen at this point, and what she does next makes me lose it. She's been berating the cashier for not being fast enough, and then she snaps at the young mother that she should make that brat be quiet. Additionally, Karen decided to attack the girl some more by shrieking that if she didn't dress like a slut, she wouldn't have gotten knocked up. She said this because it was apparently obvious that the 20-something's jeans were too tight, as well as her top. The young mother went beet red, the cashier was in shock. The infant, not liking the noise, was letting it be known that he wasn't happy. Karen had gotten on my last nerve, and being old, sick, and in a bad mood, I let loose. I slipped past Karen and tossed my card to the cashier and told her that the young lady's bill is on me. And that got Karen to start yapping again, only for me to loudly say, "Shut up, I'm as tired of your mouth as the little man is." That stunned Karen, who could only sputter. The young mother thanked me and proceeded to give the infant her full attention. Karen is fuming and starts heaving her items onto the belt, but apparently her mouth recovered before her brain. As soon as the cashier finished ringing her up and asked for payment, Karen turns towards me and sneered, "Well, aren't you going to pay for mine as well?" I was done with her and responded, "No, I don't like people who wake up sleeping infants with their big mouths." Karen then huffed and stormed out. I was hoping for an "I demand to speak to the manager" moment, but you can't have everything. After I paid for my groceries, I headed to my car and was pulling out of the lot when I saw the young mother sitting at the bus stop holding the infant. Buses out where I live run every hour, so I decided to offer her a ride. It turns out she only lived a couple of miles away, under 15 minutes by car, but a couple of hours on foot carrying a baby and supplies. I learned that she just moved to the area with her husband. They had moved here for his job. I asked her about the little man and learned that as her husband got paid, they bought more of the stuff the baby needed, but right now they were just making do with what they had. I wrote an address down and told her that if her husband was off on Saturday, that she should have him bring them to the address for the yard sale with tons of baby stuff. It just so happened that my niece was getting rid of things, as she had all the babies that she needed and had every supply that an infant would require. The girl told me that she would make sure to pop by and thanked me again for everything. I dropped them off and made it home, and gave my niece a call describing the girl and the infant and telling her to give the couple anything they liked, and I would cover whatever they couldn't afford. What a wholesome ending to a wild story. OP is such a good person. Guys, in rough times like these, we all should do our best to watch out for one another and help others in need. We definitely need more people like OP in this world. People that can be badass and stand up to Karens, while also being compassionate for others. Our block has many houses on it, and they all have iron black fences that are around 5 to 6 feet high with gates. Behind each fence, most people have some plants or a little garden or a tree. You get the idea. It's clear that these belong to each of the respective houses. In front of my family's house, we have a small cactus garden, and then we have some tall planters with some succulents in them, and then we have a little vegetable garden with some tomatoes, basil, etc. My grandmother is really into plants, and it's given her stuff to do in this pandemic. The two tall planters with succulents are closest to the fence, so someone could stick their hand in and take plants out if they wanted to. So I'm walking home, and I see this woman sticking her hands through the fence. I think she's taking our tomatoes, so I speed walk up to her and ask her what she's doing. I said, "Hi, this is my garden. What are you doing?" "Oh, hi," she answered. "You have a lovely garden. I'm not damaging anything. I'm just taking some of these succulents and then some of these plants." I look, and while she did take some succulents, she also just picked weeds out of our garden. I said to her, "I'd appreciate it if you gave those succulents back. They're our plants. But you realize you just took weeds out too, right?" She didn't look bothered and said, "Oh, I took some pictures of these for my photography class, and everyone loved the pictures, so I thought I'd take some." I replied, You can have the weeds, but I'd like my other plants back." She was more embarrassed about taking weeds than stealing plants out of my garden, and this whole photography class thing was really weird to me, but whatever, she can just keep her random weeds. It was the weirdest experience ever, and I'll never get how people think they can just stick their hands into someone's garden and take their stuff. My friends, and that wraps up another episode of r/Entitled People. Guys, if you like the video, please give the video a thumbs up. And if you missed the last episode of r/Entitled People, a Karen calls the cops on a 3-year-old. Imagine that. If you guys missed that episode, go check it out, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay safe out there, my friends. I love you.